Who would like to go first? Matahari, you want to go
Yeah.
first?
Okay. So, page 77, you see?
Okay.
And it says, 2017, being radical, the political heart, Breitenbush Gathering. And I read it now. The people are paralyzed in these days, and especially the fairies in USA. They cannot believe what happened on 7th November 2016 in their country and in their society when Trump was elected president. Some are totally afraid or without hope. However, many still have some, in Harry Hayes' words, hope along the wind. And at the end of the gathering, we all agreed and shouted yes to the world because we together can change the world to better. Also, it's getting worse and worse. I cannot and will not repeat all the words that have been said about the political situation in this country. All the tears, real heavy tears that were shed about how destroyed and torn this country is, how much they fear that the precious LGBTI world would be thrown away with just one stroke of this crazy man. All these wonderful minorities which still live in the USA could be executed and banned from this country, which was once the land of hope and dreams. It's now a disaster of mind, spirit, emotion, and fear. Again, all people of color and not only the refugees feel threatened as never before since the 1960s. This is not a joke, this is reality. Before I went to this gathering in Oregon, I stayed some days in San Francisco in the European hostel near the gay district. And I felt like being thrown into the deepest slums of India. Masses of homeless and poor people were everywhere on the street. Not only black people were lying around in the dirt on the sidewalks. Worn clothes lay scattered all over. A stray man with a guitar that did not bring his pants over his ass dragged his bedding in the dust behind him. Even in a rich and intellectual city like San Francisco, I could see the most craziness and poverty that can exist in the world. Never in my life could I hear the word fuck more often than in these 3 days in this city. On the one hand, I felt shocked and insecure. And on the other hand, I felt a lot of empathy with these poor and mostly mentally crazy people around me. In all their weirdness, I had the feeling that they all greeted me in a way and respected me. Maybe they saw that I did not want to be something better. And when I passed some strange-looking hippies in Haight-Ashbury or some really looking freaky outlaw people, when they looked at me, they really greeted me. I was very astonished. I had a nice warm walk through the botanical garden in Golden Gate Park, and when I discovered the AIDS Memorial Grove deep in the woods, it brought me to tears. It was a wonderful grove of stones and trees, water and flowers. I had the idea to create something like this in our sanctuary in Europe or in Austria if we got the chance to get the land back. More and more is forbidden in the city of San Francisco for gay people. There are rules and regulations everywhere. So the only place where fairies can live their gay and spiritual life to the fullest is at fairy gatherings. This is why they are so popular in USA, because there are no rules to restrict you. Here you have so many helpers that support you being human and gay at the same time, being spiritual and physical, or let's better say, help you being to the fullest. So the gathering in Breitenbush was packed with 175 hungry and loving men, most of them with lots of sadness in them. On the other hand, they had so much love and positive energy for each other. a community that you can only wish for every country in the world. If I could only have this kind of helping community in Austria, or even a fairy tribe like this, I would live in a paradise. However, we are still so far away from this dream. There are many reasons for this fact, and you can give the answer that is suitable for you. Maybe we do not know what a real helper is for one another, a servant to the community. Empowering the idea of being a helper is a great thing to do. When I arrived at the spa reservation of Breitenbos, it was totally raining. There was still much snow beneath the trees. We had to find our cabins deep in the woods. We also had a nice opening circle where Ampersand, the main organizer, opened the gathering, and then we all hugged us cheek to cheek. It is said that Breitenbush is the Club Med of all the fairies gatherings. It is held since 1982 as a direct descendant of the first gathering ever in the desert of Arizona 1979. The fairies are still very welcome in this space as the largest private group because they helped this spa to survive in the early days. Now it is even more important to keep the space and the nature sacred as it is and not bring any fire to anywhere in this land, as that could lead to a catastrophe. In addition, there are some spas nearby which were already destroyed by fire. I was happy to meet White Eagle after the Naraya and Monkey Bear Museum and many others. So I tried my first hot spring after I got a lovely guided tour from Elf 9 in the dark around the woods. The water was really hot, and after 15 minutes I had the feeling that it was already too much for me. However, I stayed another 20 minutes in the hot spring because I wanted to know how it worked with so many fairies sitting together naked in these hot tubs, in silent and spiritual springs everywhere. There were many physical contacts, and many unknown, unrecognizable helpers tried to stroke my legs and my cock in the dark. It was liberating to feel that, but first I was a little shy because I did not really know how far I could go, because of all the restrictions I heard before. But fairies themselves, they do not limit you. On the contrary, they help you to bring you close to your borders in a safe way and trustful way. Isn't that fantastic? At every gathering, I learn more, and I have learned here much more about helping and trusting community than many times before. Maybe the Portland and Seattle Fairies community is so loving. But I discovered that I was too long in the spring and it took too long to get into my clothes in the rain, and so I had a terrible night, waking up several times, feeling not well in my throat and a too high blood pressure in my head the next 3 days. My body started a rebellion against me, and I could not control my heated blood anymore. Nevertheless, I needed to speak in the big heart circles with my big pressure inside. It was my first time ever in fairy space that I had to speak from the heart in the middle of a circle, and was not sure if I could hear what my heart said because I had to get out and expose myself in front of about 100 people. It was the biggest heart circle I've ever attended. However, on the first day, I got used to it. After my first circle, I really had to go out into the nature for 1 hour, and this was the first and only time here where there was sun. I could imagine the woods around in all its beauty. I was standing at the bridge across the river with a big pressure inside, trying to let my negative energy flow with the river, and after turning around to let all positive energy flowing into myself from the coming river. However, it was not easy. I still felt like standing on the top of a bubbling volcano, and it was difficult to get myself under control. I saw some deer standing there, grazing right next to our main house and the love temple, and this impressed me more than anything else I did. 4 deers with no fear, just 3 meters beside me, and I was so happy to feel that all creatures are equal and can respect each other if we just want to. It was like seeing Bambi being reanimated in fairy space, and they loved it. Isn't that just a wonder in this natural sanctuary? The fairy tale of Bambi was first created in the 20th century by the Austrian writer Felix Salten. And here I discovered the real one, beautiful and without fear. Amazing. After this moment of joy, I had to lay down for 1 hour in my bed, but I nearly could not get up to the rehearsal of our dance group for the fashion and no talent show. Waltzing the Flowers was our choreographer, an American who really lived in Berlin, who normally lives in Berlin. We learned a dance called Memories of the Ancient Past and performed Madonna's Vogue. We had some very sexy club dancers with us who showed off their ass while dancing. After dinner, there was a blind naked dance disco with electro swing music, which I never saw before. Although I felt rather unwell, I wanted to be part of this blind dance, and I must say it touched everybody everywhere. There is a new dance experience that is a new dance experience where all our dance dreams come true. Also for older dancers, because you are all the same, because you are all naked. The next day, I presented and offered our European sacred shawl to the heart circle. All fairies were blessed touching it while I was stepping between them, letting it float over their heads. It was very emotional. I had to cry under my shawl after I finished talking. Under the shawl, I got a beautiful smile from a great-looking fairy who sat just in front of me during the heart circle. After the circle, I hugged him. His name was Urson. I felt a deep connection to him on many levels, although he was very tall. However, he had these deep eyes, and he looked like Alika, the man from Hawaii whom I met in Santa Cruz last year. What can I say? He is that kind of guy with whom I could definitely fall in love with. When I sat beside him the next day before the no talent show, I was so pleased because he immediately tried to ground me. He asked me if I was nervous before the show. I said no, but had my fears about all my ideas working. I admired his positive energy and openness, and he always tried to laugh and to be helpful and gave a lot of applause to all the in the dining room arriving glamorous drag queens of the night. The whole dining hall was spending a spoon badging concert. I felt safe beside him, although I knew he was too self-secure for me. But in a way, we both were the same. I did not know what the connection was when I saw him before he saw me first. Nevertheless, I felt like as he was always being aware of me, as I was aware of him, just as I feel with White Eagle. As I heard later, he was not only a good singer, but also a filmmaker doing documentaries about the climate change. Wow. And about the dams in the West Coast. Wow, wow. Just some days ago, I heard that a dam is threatening to burst in this area. Moreover, he totally got my heart when he described himself like this. I'm Amab, never thought of gender in binary times, and pass as a man in this world. I am also white passing and appreciating how someone who looks like I do is given much by way of undeserved advantages. I was raised to believe in feminism and realize more and more every day that what it means to be an ally to women, POC, and trans people is not about assumption and not about my own agenda. Consent culture is big and of utmost importance when living together. In the afternoon, Mary Edelman had a historic speech of his memories about the beginning of the gay liberation movement and the radical fairies. He had to face a lot of aggression from the police because he was a gay right activist. And for him, the fairies came from the gay liberation movement and were a development out of the fairy circuits in the 70s in San Francisco. For him, Harry Hay put only the word radicals to the movement, which for others is not enough to describe the meaning of Harry to the fairies. However, he was happy that he shared his experience with us. I really also wanted to read Clive Jones' book, When We Rise, after the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, and he invented the AIDS Tapestry Memorial Quilt. He especially mentioned our common visions of the fairies share, such as communities having no leaders, heart circles, and Mother Earth. Thank you.